Don't you just love when you hear a mosquito go right in your ear? Hello, my name is Lion Carew, and I'm here at the Uncalm Mexico Village. I was just doing a breathwork practice, and I thought, why don't I share a little bit about why I do breathwork and see what happens when I allow that consciousness to flow. There's a lot of things that I've wanted to share over my years, and I've gotten in the way of myself because I thought it needed to be structured in a certain way, or honestly thought, oh, well, if I do it and it doesn't go viral and da-da-da-da. But when I really sink down into it, when this thing keeps coming up in me, which is this desire to share my stories from my experience, why I do certain things, there's a vibrational message going out. So even if this just lands with one soul and it impacts them in a positive way, if that's you, success. And even deeper than that, the fact that I'm honoring what is coming through me in my heart. So now that we've set the stage, let's jump in here. So why do breath work? That's a little smoky. Joshua Baker over there is cooking a steak. Why do breath work? Well, first and foremost, you're breathing all the time. You've probably already breathed like 100, 200 times or something. I don't know, however many. You've breathed a lot since I started recording this video. And on one side, one might say, well, I'm breathing all the time, automatically. I don't need to think about it. So why does it matter that I practice breathing? Well, it matters because of that, for that exact reason. On one end, you're doing it automatically, and that's great that it's done automatically. Otherwise, you would die and you wouldn't oxygenate your tissues, and every other function in your body is reliant on your breath. So yes, automatic, but then on the other side, because it's happening automatically, because it's so important that it's happening automatically, that's the reason you want to practice it. Imagine that. Imagine having control over, access to the thing that literally affects everything in your body. Now I'm going to go on a little tangent here. I will go on many tangents. Think of your body as a vehicle. Think of your body as a vehicle. And this vehicle has certain functions and features that you can utilize, but you don't know about unless you learn it from the manual, okay? The manual is like your breathing. The manual is like your nervous system. And the manual is really your nervous system. The way to read it is through your breathing. And it's not a reading of words, it's a reading of feelings and sensation. How is that for an analogy on the moment? Whew! So, if you want to get access to all the features, all the cool things that you can do with this vehicle, you got to read the manual. The only way to read the manual is to decipher it, to go in through the breathing. I mean, not the only way, but it's one of the most potent ways. It's like you got to do that. You have to do that. There's no evading that. So to pull that back a little bit, yeah, you could just drive the vehicle. Let's say it's a car. It's a vehicle. You could just drive the vehicle and have no access to all the things, but it gets you from A to B. That's what a lot of humans are doing. They're just driving from A to B, and they have access to all these amazing features, these really cool things that make the drive from A to B way, way, way cooler. In fact, the drive from A to B becomes like a whole, like there's all these hidden ventures in the drive from A to B just from the features, and they're not accessing that. Now, if you're not following me here, what I'm saying is, when you breathe automatically, you're just doing your everyday thing, and when you start to practice breath work, you get access to the depths of your body. Now, what are the depths to your body through breath? Well, there's nervous system regulation, there's reducing anxiety, there's reducing inflammation, there's oxygenating your tissues, there's assistance of pumping lymph fluid. There's probably a whole other cascade of things that I can't think of off the top of my head, like increasing your lung volume, like having out-of-body experiences, which I in my own experience, it's been super, super helpful, because imagine for a moment, imagine you could, just like that, you have no conscious recollection of any of your issues, any of your problems, any of your worries. It's just, I am. I can access that through breath work anytime I want. And you could too. So, why practice breath work? Practicing breath work so that you have the full access. And in our day and age, it's probably more applicable to say ensuring that your vehicle, your body, is in tip-top shape. Because let me tell you, I don't want to induce some fear into you, but there's a lot of effort that's going at your mechanism, your body, that's making it less functional. Shitty toxic water, shitty toxic food. Most of the food, you can't even really call it food. Heavy metals being sprayed in the air. Information, the news, electromagnetic fields, 5G. All this stuff is affecting your body. And believe it or not, breathing can help you manage that, regulate that, and come into more health. It's the gift of spirit that you were never given for whatever reason. And I'm here to remind you that it is life in and of itself. It is the first medicine, breath. So why practice breathing? So you can have full access to your body, so you can realize there's an infinite experience of your body, and so you can ward off all the nonsense, all the toxic crap that's being inundated into the body. So let's talk about some of the cool things you can do with breath work and some of the cool experiences I've had with breath work. Just because it's fun to talk about. Listen, I'm not trying to convince you to do breath work. Maybe I should have said that at the start of the video. I'm not trying to convince you to do breath work. I'm really sharing from my own heart how impactful this has been for me, how impactful it's been for my clients, and just I can't say anything else. That I just have a genuine, heart-filled desire. I want to share this with you. And that is enough reason for me. So whatever you take from this, if it inspires you to do breathwork, great. If you go, wow, that's interesting, I don't give a shit about breathwork, great. If it makes you feel bad that you're not doing breathwork, don't do that. That's not my aim. You don't need to feel bad if you're not doing breathwork. You're fine. You're fine just the way you are. Even if you're feeling shitty and you should be doing breathwork and all that kind of stuff, don't let me be a reason for you to feel bad about yourself. I want to inspire you. I want to make your life better, whatever that means for you. So just keep that in mind in heart. So some cool things about breath work. So oxygen, carbon dioxide, these two things, these two molecules, really, really important. One is more alkaline, one's more acidic. Carbon dioxide being more acidic, and they're an intimate relationship with our body. Of course, we need oxygen to create ATP and create energy in the body. We all need oxygen, right? And carbon dioxide is the byproduct of ventilation. We breathe that out, letting it go. The trees, they take it in and they give us oxygen. We're in this beautiful relationship. Carbon dioxide and oxygen. So when you breathe, you are ventilating. Now, a lot of people think there's just bugs all over. So if I'm doing this all the time, it's not because I'm having a spasm. I'm just getting the bugs. And I must have some Italian in me because I'm very with my conversation. Carbon dioxide and oxygen. A lot of people think that breathing is driven by oxygen, and it's not. It's actually driven by carbon dioxide. So one could say that breathing is actually a mechanism of ventilation, which really it is. I mean, it's both. We're definitely taking in the oxygen from the air, but the way I like to think of breathing is more of a mechanism of ventilation. What do I mean by ventilation? Venting off the carbon dioxide. When you don't breathe, your heart still keeps pumping, and you continue to produce carbon dioxide. And over time, that feeling that bubbles up, oh, I really got to breathe. That's the carbon dioxide going past the brainstem, particularly your chemoreceptors, going, man, you better breathe pretty soon. And interestingly enough, the chemoreceptors are that and your amygdala are the only places that really induce immense amounts of fear. Interesting. So, why am I mentioning all this? Who really cares? Well, being able to be in an intimate relationship with carbon dioxide can help you with anxiety. Is that so? It is so. Why? Because that thing I just mentioned, your brainstem is in a very, very intimate connection with carbon dioxide. Very, very intimate connection. So when you learn to hold your breath and relax and willingly say to yourself and do, I'm not going to breathe, I'm just going to allow this to happen, you're training yourself to become more CO2 resilient. What is resilience? What is resilience anyways? It's the ability to withstand something, to go through something hard. It allows you to develop grit. So on a biological standpoint, when you're breathing, when you're ventilating, when you're doing these breath holds, particularly the breath holds, you're going to become more resilient. You're going to be less, more adaptable really. Also more CO2 tolerant in your body. So then when you're doing exercise and you're exerting yourself, you'll be able to handle more carbon dioxide without feeling like absolute shit. So with this intimate relationship of carbon dioxide and oxygen, the red blood cell, the reason it's red is the hemoglobin, and when it's red, it's actually because there's oxygen that has touched the blood. Some people think that venous blood is blue. It's not. It's just very dark, and the vasculature itself is that color. Why is that? Well, oxygen, when it is on the hemoglobin, it turns quite red, and that's why when venous blood is exposed to ambient air, which is 21% oxygen, it starts to turn this red color. Why am I talking all about this? This relationship is really, really important. And when again, it can happen automatically, but you can shift the state. You can shift the balance of oxygen and CO2. You can shift the balance of alkalinity and acidity in your bloodstream. And I don't even know the depths off the top of my head, but every mechanism in your body is influenced by this. Everything in your body is a matter of pressure gradient or a matter of charge. So a positive charge, negative charge. Things are moving in and out. Things are communicating through this type of communication. Either a pressure gradient, so if on one side there's high pressure and the other side low pressure, moves into the low pressure area, or if you have a negative, positive, they are interacting with each other, proton, electron, for example. Things like a sodium-potassium pump. I believe sodium is a positively charged, while potassium is negatively charged. These are how things move around in the body, and you can have control over the relationship of carbon dioxide and CO2 in your body, which is going to literally change your whole physiology for the better. How do I know it's going to be for the better? Because most of you right now, in this moment, are probably shallow breathing. So let's take a nice deep breath in. Let's take another deep breath in. Here, I'm gonna give you an example of why this is so important. Take a deep breath in, and then just go. You probably already feel a difference in your body just from those 3 deep breaths. The reason this is so important is because most of us are shallow breathing into the chest, and there are receptors in the body that notice where you're breathing, how deep you're breathing, how much oxygen is going where. And our bodies have evolved for a long, long time to be used to a lot of movement, used to breathing a lot, used to moving a lot, and then all of a sudden we just stop moving a bunch, we stop breathing a bunch, and the body, essentially when you don't breathe enough and you're doing the shallow breaths all day, you get in this low-grade, agitated anxiety state. It's called sympathetic arousal, low-grade sympathetic arousal state. And you just feel kind of agitated. Like something's like just, I'm stressed. The shoulders start to raise, breathe even less. You start to hunch over, and you just don't feel good. So even though in your mind you might be thinking, like what use is some breathing going to do? Happens to me all the time. Mind gets in the way. It's like, I don't need to do that. I just need to do more of what I'm doing here. Which really, the mind, what that means is his mind's going, I just need some more dopamine. God damn it, give me more of that dopamine. Well, when you say no, I don't want any more, I'm going to say no to that dopamine, and you sit down and do a breathing practice, you realize, holy crap-a-moly, I really needed to sit here and breathe. So I could go more and more and more into all the physiology, what's really happening, give you all the science. I could look up all that science and send it to you. I don't want to spend time doing that. I want to spend time giving you a window into some of my experiences. Because life is about experience. And we could go into the science and say, like, this is what's happening here, and this is what the brainwaves are occurring, and this is what's happening physiologically, and the acidity of the blood, and this is expanding, that's expanding. We're seeing all these biomarkers. Sure, fantastic. Amazing. If that gets you off, maybe this isn't the right video for you. Maybe go to PubMed. Maybe sometime I will share some of that stuff because it's interesting. But I think what's more interesting is, like, what did I experience? Well, in longer breathwork journeys, now this isn't daily practice, this is longer breathwork journeys, I have literally experienced oneness. I can't describe it any other way than oneness with all that is. A cessation of time, pure, unadulterated consciousness, pure light. And it is the greatest feeling that I've ever experienced in my life, because in that state, I know without a shred of a doubt that it is all love. I've experienced floating. I've experienced having no body. I've experienced ecstatic joy that I could only describe like being a child. I've experienced floating above my body. I've experienced going deep into the earth. I've experienced going into space. I've experienced the depths and infinite depths of my emotions, great sadness, great pain. I've experienced my whole body igniting into what felt like an energetic electrical fire, like I was buzzing and like shocked throughout my whole body, but it felt really good. These experiences overall have given me this sense that there's much more to the human experience than what's normally accessible in everyday life from our senses. That there is a profound revelational God-like cosmic experience accessible just through the alteration of breath. I can spend 10 minutes and achieve these states. This isn't like a tooting my own horn type of thing. It's just to remind you, like, we're searching, often we're searching for something outside of us, an answer, a connection, something more. It's really available through your breath. It's available to you always. It's available to you always. So these are some of the experiences I've had with breath, some of the reasons. Also, one of the reasons I do breath work is it's a way for me to come back to myself. It feels like church, like I'm creating a church within myself. One sec, I'm going to make sure I'm still recording. And I am, which is great. Breathwork allows me to feel like I've created a sacred space within myself. It's somewhere I can go where I know that I can come back to center. And that might be one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced, is creating a practice that that feels as though it's my own. Yes, there's things that I draw from, and there are different modalities that have inspired me. But one of the most beautiful things for me has been taking a lot of those practices, exploring here, exploring there, and using what I feel like is my own. It feels like there's no one that could ever take that away from me, that it belongs to me. And there's something really powerful and beautiful, simple even about that no matter where I go, I don't need anything outside of myself to shift my state, to shift my emotional state, my energetic state, my mental state, even my physical state. Little tangent, some chronic pain I've had in my back and my body has been really addressed by breath work. Times where I'm feeling immensely stressed, anxious, pent up, don't exactly know what the next thing to do is. I spend 10, 15 minutes getting myself in a really flowy state, some powerful breath holds, experience I am consciousness, and all of a sudden I realize that none of that's actually an issue anymore, and I know the next thing I really want to do. What would be possible for you if you had a practice that in 10 to 15 minutes it allowed you to completely reset yourself, like right down ground zero. Not only that, often offers you insights as to what to really do next. For me, it's worth its time. It's worth like $1 million, like millions and millions and millions of dollars in that 10, 15 minutes. There's no therapist that can do that. There's no coach that can do that. Only you can do that. Only you can do that. I do breath work because it empowers me. It reminds me that simple things are super powerful. Just breathing. And that's the funny thing, right? Just breathing. I was talking to a dear friend, a soul brother, Anthony, the other day, and I realized the paradox of complexity, that as things get more spiritually, cosmically complex, they become more simple. The most complex thing in the universe is oneness. I am, because it contains all in one. And yet, it's just one thing. Breath has a similar nature. Out of all of the modalities, therapies, practices, approaches, tools, whatever word you want to put there, breath is probably the most simple and most effective, widely applicable, and underused, I would say. And for me, breath has been a teacher, a guide, almost like a being in a sense, constantly whispering. If you just take time with your breath, there's a symphony I find that comes about. I always tell people I guide to be curious. What does your breath have to show you today? How can you look at the mechanism that is your body as an extension, as something that that you're able to be housed in, as opposed to what you are? It gives you this whole different perspective of the relationship. If I think I'm my body, then I'm very limited by that. If I understand that I myself, the me, is actually sitting and in this vehicle observing, but then the driver is actually consciousness itself, then a whole other game appears. And then when I realize that or at least me in the driver's seat, I can work with spirit to move my breath, to shift the vibrational state of where I'm at, so that I can, change the quality of the gas going in the car, or the speed of the car, or accessing all those different features I was talking about at the beginning. Like, that is what's available to us all through breath. And I could never tell you all the things. Even if I had experienced everything there is to experience, even if I had all the answers and all the practices, all the pathways of breath work, telling you would not be it. You'd have to do it yourself, because the way you would do it would be different. Even if you did exactly the same way as me, it would be different. That feels good. Thank you for your time, your presence, your energy, for getting in here with me. I look forward to sharing more conversations. This is like a streaming of energy for me. Whatever we want to call these, I don't know what to call it yet. Just letting it all flow from my heart. I am a ego on my ego. I am an ego. I have an ego. In the context of human design, I am a ego manifestor on my personality side, and I am a splenic projector on my design side. If you know what that means, great. If you don't, doesn't matter. What that means in essence is that I am here to share things that I like, things that are important to me. And if I don't, then I just get super blocked up. And perhaps that will offer you something, if you're like me, that there's no right way you got to do this stuff. You have to package it up in a certain way. Like, sure, that's fun if you like that. I don't like doing that. I just want to speak from my heart and inspire some humans through the vibration that I'm creating in this moment. So that's what this is. I love you very much. I'm wishing you a beautiful rest of your day, whatever time it is for you. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Please comment, please subscribe, please share if you found this interesting. Or even if you didn't find it interesting, I'd appreciate your support. All my love. Blessings.